Hey guys, welcome to our first ever video. Thank you for tuning in with us. Let's take it back actually.
Let's take it back, huh?
Hey guys, welcome to our first ever video. Thanks for tuning into the Nick Square Flying Video Circus Review.
You got it right. You got it right. Back.
And today we will be reviewing I hate you sometimes.
I am to please.
You little. Alright, let's proceed with the review.
Yes. Let us continue. To Live and Die in LA is a 1985 action crime film about a hotshot Secret Service agent who goes after a notorious counterfeiter after his partner is murdered. Joining him is his new partner, who is pushed to the limit when the lines between right and wrong begin to blur in his partner's quest for revenge on the sun-drenched streets of LA. With a stellar cast filled out by the likes of William Peterson as Richard Chance, Willem Dafoe as Eric Masters, and John Pankow as John Vukovich. And tying it all together is director William Friedkin, who some of you may recognize as directing The Exorcist.
Fun stuff, Nick. If only I could have cut you off.
You don't have the power of editing on your side.
No, I don't. I can't even afford rent. Alright. Moving on, let's talk about the goods, shall we, that this movie delivers?
Oh, I'd say there's a lot of those, wouldn't you?
Oh, for frickin' sure.
To start out, we have the stellar cinematography done by Robbie Mueller. I think it's Mueller. Had those two little dots over the E.
Mueller.
Yeah. I guess
Mueller.
it's like He's also done the cinematography for the movies Repo Man, Paris, Texas, as well as Dead Man with Johnny Depp.
Have you seen any of them?
No.
Neither have I. It's on our list.
It's on the list. The whole entire movie is actually very, very beautifully shot, very beautifully structured. My favorite shot is actually near the beginning of the film, when Willem Dafoe's character burns his painting outside of his house. I love the contrast of colors that it's got going on with the White House, and then you got the red fire coming along. I say is your favorite shot.
Well, one scene in particular, I should say, that stands out is the scene where he walks into the strip club, and you've got, I believe, is it like the green in the foreground, and then you've got, I think, red in the background?
It was probably just
I think even in the title work, actually, thinking of it,
yeah,
it was green.
Green and red.
Yeah, so it's
very
it's
crisp,
thematic throughout.
Oh yes, and actually on a side note, there's 2 weeks of this movie that takes place during Christmas, so you could put it on a list of unofficial Christmas movies.
Yeah. And if they didn't tell you when it took place, you wouldn't know the difference.
Fair point. Fair point.
Alright, you and your frickin' unofficial Christmas movies.
Next, we're going to be moving into the character arcs in the movie, and all of them were actually very well done. There wasn't one I didn't really enjoy, even though I know you weren't a big fan of William Peterson's art.
The guy was an asshole, what can I say?
Okay, that's slightly misleading, I'll say. Not in his entirety. He's a good cop, but he's got that wild streak about him. But slowly throughout the movie, he becomes less and less appealing.
And then next up, we have the character of Eric Masters, played by Willem Dafoe. So the character is a very highly intelligent counterfeiter who, aside from being notorious, is just overall kinky. The character itself is somewhat sexually ambiguous. It seems to be just a theme that William Friedkin wanted to ride with. You'll get some scenes where you're scratching your head with this character, but I mean, it works. It works for his complexity.
Like most villains, the flip side of William Peterson's character, even though they're more similar than they care to admit, that sort of thing.
Absolutely agree with that.
And finally, we come to John Vukovich, who is played in the film by John Pankow. He is the more straight, by the book sort of cop. He's not so much uptight, but just a regular sort of guy. He gets partnered up with Chan. He starts out, as I said, the sort of regular Secret Service agent. Then he slowly starts to come over to Chance's way of doing things. He resists at first, but ultimately he gives in because that is what ends up getting the job done. He takes on the darker characteristics, and it completely changes who he is as a person. And it's really a sad thing to watch, because he's the character you still genuinely like in the movie, and then he just kind of turns out to not be like everyone else.
Now moving on to one of the most boss scenes in the movie. All right, Nick, let's talk about it. The car chase scene.
The car chase. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that description.
Thank you.
It's a very creatively done chase, as well as something I haven't seen before, genuinely. Where you have... It's more or less constructed as a regular chase scene. The twist, however, is that it's on a highway going the wrong way. And one thing that really sticks with me about this chase, it's very different from anything you'd see nowadays. I feel you don't have many movies that take chances with a chase scene where they're so formulaic.
I mean, they're action heavy, but there's no creativity outside the box, maybe? Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be other movies where there's a chase scene going the wrong way down a freeway, but Friedkin is one of the first, if not the first, to kind of do that. So we'll give that to him. Now, one of the only drawbacks for me in this film is the ambiguity of the story. There's nothing that's spoon-fed to you. You have to connect a lot of the dots yourself. If there are even dots to really connect, it's just very jumpy at moments, where one minute they're investigating something and the next moment they're chasing people down, and there's no real link to the two scenes. It's more or less just like its own separate thought, and we just have to kind of go with it.
Personally, I didn't mind that so much. I'll be honest, yeah, some things did go over my head as well. But I don't mind when there's questions that are left unanswered, or when you have to connect the dots yourself in a movie.
Because you don't like being spoon-fed, as you like to call it.
Yes, as I like to call it. You know, I like a movie that makes you kind of do it yourself a little bit, connect the dots on your own. And leaving the questions unanswered, as you said, it also gives me a reason, not just because I enjoy the movie as entertainment, but to come back and kind of dive into those questions. Yeah, adding to the rewatchability of the movie that I find. The only other negative that I know I had a problem with, and I feel you felt the same about it, was the beginning of the film, the prologue of the film, with our introduction to William Peterson's character, and he is on a detail protecting the president as he's given a speech, and it seems like that is how the film is going to be at first. There is an assassination attempt, it's stopped, and then all of a sudden, when that ends, you have the rest of the story beginning with Willem Dafoe's character and the counterfeiting storyline and the revenge story. And then there's just, that huge disconnect between those two parts. But in watching the commentary, what really drew William Friedkin to the book that this was based on was the surreal nature of a Secret Service agent, which is one day he could be, guarding a VIP, the president in this case, and then the next day, he's chasing, a couple guys for credit card fraud. It's that much of a change day to day, apparently.
Great little scene, and there is a moment where Grisham's partner somehow just climbs out of the frickin' hotel window, and just grabs the terrorist.
That still does confuse me. He kind of Spider-Mans his way up the wall,
up the building.
Yeah, you don't see it, but you kind of just see him come over the ledge, and then you're just kind of like, how did he?
And this just leaves us with our final thoughts. Nick?
Well, starting off, this is definitely a movie I'd recommend to anyone who cares for a more thinking action film. Yes, in the first viewing, I'll be honest, yeah, probably have a lot of questions at the end of it, but if it at least entertains you enough to come back to it, then you will slowly get more of those questions answered. But I would definitely say this is still a strong film outside of that. Good cast, good action, good story, 80s revenge story, so kind of simple, but still good. Still good. And can't recommend this enough.
And if you are a fan of Wang Chung, you will love this movie.
Yes.
Do not forget the awesome soundtrack that this movie has.
It's pure 80s, and it's a beautiful thing to keep listening to. Well, what are your final thoughts?
I liked it a lot. It was a great movie, artistically driven, great chemistry between characters. It's got action, it's got a bit of suspense. I think that if you are a fan of crime dramas, you will definitely enjoy it. Even if you're not, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, lie to our faces and still give us a thumbs up. We appreciate comments. Subscribe to our channel too,
Please do.
and be sure to click the notification icon to get updates.
Oh, that was horrendous.